Yep, I'm doing it again. So, this is the 3DFX Voodoo Banshee, this specific card being made by Ensonic, and it is, I guess you could say, kind of a almost budget tier, not necessarily budget, but it was one of 3DFX's early attempts before the later Voodoo cards, where they integrated both a 2D and 3D core onto a single card rather than needing a pass-through cable. And today, we're going to be running Minecraft on it. Alright, so here's our setup. We have our Voodoo Banshee here and a case fan pointed at it because it does get a little bit toasty during running. And beyond that, it is literally just the exact same specification as the S3 Verge setup, so 550 megahertz AMD K6-3 plus, and yeah. Anyway, with a little bit of video editing magic, I will instantly throw Windows 98 on this screen. And there we go, we have Windows 98 installed, so let's go ahead and throw on the USB drivers. So let's go ahead and open my computer. And we can also eject the Windows 98 setup disk. This is a completely clean install of Windows 98 that I've got here, so there's absolutely nothing on it right now. Because setting up from stock, that makes sure that everything is gonna hopefully go as planned. But considering how this is my third attempt at recording now, things didn't go to plan. Just waiting. There we go. Okay, click yes. Let's go ahead and restart the computer. We can eject the floppy disk now. And we'll wait for that to finish restarting, and then we'll stick in our flash drive, which I have a new folder on it now, with stuff specifically for the Banshee, though for the most part it's just a copy of the S3 Verge folder from the previous video. Let's try and center the screen a little bit more. There we go. And I did try and lower the brightness of the screen as much as I could, so then it's not so washed out, but there's no manual brightness control on this Galaxy S5 camera, so it might still be a bit hard to read some text, but whatever. Okay, so we have our USB flash drive plugged in now. We'll let that install the drivers. Okay, and now we can once again go into my computer. Removable disk. And this time we'll go into Minecraft Voodoo Banshee. We'll copy these four things to desktop first of all, as well as the .minecraft folder to the Windows folder. So C Windows, show files, copy that, paste here, and while that's happening, we can go ahead and install our drivers, or at least extract them, Evolution 0.9. And the interesting thing about these Banshee Evolution drivers is that they seem to use a special OpenGL ICD from what seems to be intended for Windows XP. So this is an OpenGL2 DirectX wrapper from what it seems like. And if you go down to here, yep, something called Glide XP. And importantly, the reason why I think it's a OpenGL2 DirectX wrapper is that it will not work unless you have the DirectX 9.0C redistributable installed. So that's extracted now. We can close out of the thank you page. And we'll also need to install kernel EX in order for things to work. So we can just extract that to C Windows temp. Actually, wait, no, that is for the DirectX 9 redistributable. Okay, so we'll extract it again, but this time we'll stick it in C Windows system. Okay, so that's done. We'll install kernel EX next. It doesn't really matter what order you install things in. So that's going to install. Next, we can reboot later. We'll just go ahead and just install everything. So this time, we extract this to C Windows temp. So let that run in the background. We'll go into Device Manager and install the drivers that we extracted to the Voodoo Banshee folder thing. So update driver, specify location, uncheck removable media, and click Browse. See Banshee Evolution drivers. Next. Next. Let that happen. Finish, and we will once again restart later. We'll restart after that. And then we'll also go ahead and install Java 5 now that we're almost done with everything. So you can also install Java 6 if you want to, but in either case, Java 5 or Java 6 works just fine, so it doesn't really matter which version you use, because these old versions of Minecraft, they don't really care, just as long as you have Java 5 or higher. So for the most part now, we're just waiting on the DirectX 9.0C redistributable to finish extracting. Let's go ahead and check out the specs of the Voodoo Banshee in Hardware Info 32 while we're waiting. And I'm not going to open GL info right now either, because until the DirectX redistributable is finished installing, there's a good chance that ends up crashing the computer. So, yeah. Okay, click Start. Let that install in the background. We're really pushing what we can do as far as multitasking goes on this AMD K6. So, yeah, as you can see here, we have the K6-3 Plus at 550 megahertz, just like in the S3 Verge video. And here's our Voodoo Banshee with 16 megabytes of RAM, and this allows it to run at higher resolutions than what the Verge ends up having to run at with, 640 by 480. So we'll close out of that, close out of that as well. That is almost finished extracting, and that is a little bit more than halfway finished installing. Okay, and now that is done extracting, so we will move up back to C. We'll go into the Windows folder, show files again. Where's temp? There's temp. And we can just run dx setup. Accept, next, next, let install. And it's important that I had Windows or kernel EX installed earlier, because on my second attempt I did not install kernel EX, and that caused Minecraft to render with just a black screen. So I think that Glide XP might need kernel EX in order to work properly. Okay, Java is almost done installing now, and we are mostly waiting on DirectX. So we'll just wait for that to finish. You know, it's times like these where the video just kind of turns into installation and file copying simulator instead of anything all that interesting. Like, we're just watching stuff install. Yeah, it's just installing stuff, but whatever, it has to happen. Okay, now we have Java done installing, so once again, restart later. Oh wow, that finished quick. Okay, well, now we get to restart. And most likely the next thing that I'll be recording after this is the S3 Verge hardware versus software rendering thing, where I'm gonna compare it versus CPU software rendering, both on this machine here that you're seeing right now, as well as a Pentium 4 system, where I'm fully expecting CPU rendering to just blow the Verge out of the water. So that'll be something a little bit interesting. If I remember correctly, on this system, software rendering is actually just slightly slower than the Verge, just because, you know, the CPU itself is so slow. And it looks like things are a little bit washed out again right now. Fun. Well, right now it's just installing drivers for the monitor now that the, you know, Voodoo drivers are installed, so nothing particularly interesting. So you're not really missing anything by seeing this washed out portion. And there we go, we're at the desktop, and kernel EX is installed. Let's drag hardware info down to there. So, oh, whoops, I did not intend to start hardware info again. I intended to start up GL info, just to show off the OpenGL stuff. Okay, so here is GL info. Give it a moment. Let's get this to try and focus. There we go. Okay, so this is the Glide XP version of OpenGL that's implemented through the Banshee Evolution drivers, and as you can see, even though it is only OpenGL 1.1, it is importantly hardware accelerated, which means that Minecraft should not complain. And we'll also just run GL Gears for a moment, and yeah, you can see we get some pretty high FPS, so 178 FPS, so that is already far better than what the S3 Verge was able to do, if you remember seeing, or if you have seen the previous video. So we should be able to just start up Minecraft right away now. Why is this not focusing? Come on. Or is... okay, I think it's just the text being a bit washed out. Okay, so we'll click login, and then we'll click play offline, and we should be able to get into the game in a moment. There we go. So unlike the S3 Verge, there are no rendering errors happening in game right now with the Voodoo Banshee. And that is because, with the Verge, not only was fog not supported, but also, along with that, transparent textures, if I remember correctly, are also not supported by the Verge. So that resulted with the text in that video being rendered with a black background. And here we are. So the FPS stabilizes after like a few seconds, but early on it will be laggy, as you can see here. And yeah, it looks like you can see the FPS on screen, so yeah. We're getting about 5 to 6 FPS. And the game works perfectly fine. I can pause, unpause. I can place blocks. I can break blocks. And the FPS honestly really just depends on the terrain. You can also see transparent leaves. That works fine. So in areas where there's not so much to render, like here looking out from a hole, you can see we get about 10 to 12 FPS. So it's not exactly very smooth, but a whole lot better than what the Verge can do. And look, there's a Rana there. So yeah, this is classic 0.31, and this is the version of Minecraft where all mobs were replaced with these smoother rendered models instead of the blocky ones that we know from the later game. And yeah, imagine what Minecraft would have looked like if everything was modeled in this style rather than what we ended up having now. It's really interesting to think about. Anyway, I can also switch blocks with the scroll wheel because, you know, Minecraft, everything works just fine. And so, yeah, that is how you run Minecraft on a Voodoo Banshee. I do not have any other Voodoo cards besides this one, so unfortunately I cannot test things. And underwater rendering is a little bit broken, as you can see here. I'm not entirely sure what's causing that, but it does seem like it might have something to do with fog rendering. Because like if I go above the water, you can see the fog is there, but underwater everything as far as fog goes disappears, but you can still see where the fog is supposed to cover things up, like here on the edges. And this is a very similar issue to what we saw in the S3 Verge, where without the fog, everything was getting cut off at weird angles like this. So I do think that there are issues with fog rendering that are causing all the other problems in this game, as far as, you know, running on absolutely ancient hardware goes. So yeah, we can also see other stuff, torches. It's not really exactly dark right now, or at least I can't tell if it's dark or not, because, yeah, I can go into a dark place real quick. Okay, and yeah, there we go, lighting. And given how this is a version of Minecraft Classic, we definitely do not have smooth lighting, but lighting does work, and it works pretty well as well. So yeah, for the most part, you can play Minecraft okay on the Voodoo Banshee. I wouldn't recommend playing newer versions just because those are going to be even more CPU heavy than this, and, you know, it is already running at most maybe 15 FPS if you don't have anything fancy to render, but whatever. It's still neat that stuff like this can run Minecraft at all. It's the reason why I did the S3 Verge video as well, because being able to push old hardware to its limits, and not only, you know, do that, but be able to demonstrate how to do that. That's the sort of content that I like to make. Oh, and it looks like we finally hit the moment, or the part where the FPS has peaked above 10 FPS without being in an enclosed area, though. Granted, I am standing at the top of a cliff where there really isn't so much to render anyway. So, yeah. It's smooth enough that you can parkour a little bit, even, and, you know, that's something that you really don't want very much lag to have in order to, you know, do. Okay, so, yeah, that's about it for this video, I'd say. There's Minecraft and the Voodoo Banshee. I'm gonna save an OpenGL report from this, just because I like to do that. And I completely messed up that name, as it seems. Yep, Banshee OGL. And yeah, we can also just do a quick look through what extensions are supported. You can see a 3DFX specific extension here, Gamma Control. And yeah, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'm out. Why'd that restart? That is weird. Okay. Shut down. Oh, that was standby that I selected. Okay, shut down. And I am out. See ya. The Dragon of the Ruins, Chapter the Only. Spike set down his Power Ponies comic for the nth time. He'd stopped counting the number of times he'd reread the series from beginning to end centuries ago. Morning, Twy. Passing words for an immortal who'd passed. He walked past the simple grave, a request made by the mare herself, to be with her friends to the end of time. He chuckled quietly to himself. She'd spent countless years trying to find a way to undo what she had come to see as a curse. It came as a surprise when, one day, she entered the room, finally free of her wings. It came as an even bigger surprise when she collapsed then and there. He could still hear her voice filling the castle. Spike opened the patchwork door. He probably could have done better over his 1,000 or so years of life in maintaining the castle.